Welcome, friend. I'm TK, your tour guide to the past, and you are listening to For the Love of History, the podcast where we talk about world history, women's history, and weird history. Welcome to the second episode of season 9. I believe this is episode 135. Wow, that's very exciting. Ted is joining us again this week, which is great. She is now my little recording buddy. I don't know what is going on, but she's like glued to my hip. She is my shadow. She's gonna be here with us today in whatever capacity she chooses. Last week we got up close and personal with Satan, and this week we are hopping in the time machine and going to the Andes Mountains to explore our first South American Empress, Baddie, and I am so excited about our topic today because not only is it an Empress Baddie episode, but it's a combination tattoo episode, which is my favorite kind of episode. Honestly, tattoo history is like, it's up there on my list. It's like S tier when it comes to history topics. So I'm very excited about today's episode. But before we get into that, you know the drill. It is housekeeping time. We only have 2 orders of business on the docket. First thing is we have new Ted merch actually for season 9. You can see it over here. If you're listening to the audio only version, then you can head on over to the merch store and see all of the really cute designs. We have a limited time design that will only be here until the end of August, I believe. And it is very, very cute. Mine is slowly coming in the mail. That is one of the downsides of living in Japan. Your merch comes a little bit late. And our second and final order of business is to remind you that the fundraiser for the For the Love of History app is still going strong. If you would like to donate and become a beta member once we reach our goal, you can go ahead, head down to the show notes, make your donation. A teeny tiny little donation is $5? No. Well, yes, 5 would be fine. $1 donation, $5 donation, whatever you can give, that would be absolutely fantastic to help us reach our goal. If you can't give anything, that's totally fine. Listening to this episode is really helpful all on its own. So thank you so much for being here. And with that, I do believe housekeeping is done. So it is time to grab your ceremonial war club, a little drinky drink to help you settle into the episode, hop in the time machine, and let's get to it. Between 100 to 800 CE, a powerful nation ruled over the northern coastal region of Peru. They were incredible builders, constructing pyramids, creating irrigation systems for their vast farmlands, creating lifelike pottery and delicate gold metalwork that would make Cortez pee-pee his pants and do the Wile E. Coyote awooga awooga eyes popping out situation. You may be thinking, TK, that sounds a lot like the Mayan culture, perhaps the Inca? And it totally does. But today, dear one, we are dealing with a whole nother ancient civilization in South America. The Moche, which is a fantastic name. Moche? That just sounds fun to say. The Moche, along with having a super sweet name, were banana sandwich smart. Not only were they just killing it as human beings living in a civilization where they had enough resources to sustain a large population and create huge monuments and art and all that, but they were also getting their technology on. The metal work didn't just end at fancy gold art, but they figured out a way to electroplate their work. So what is electroplating and why is it so cool? Let me tell you, dear one. Electroplating is a process that physically alters the properties of an object to make it more sturdy and make metals less likely to rust and corrode, which is an archaeologist's freaking dream. If we could electroplate everything, that would be great. I'm not sure how feasible that would be, but that would be super cool. And if you look online, it'll say that some Italian man in the 1800s named Luigi, an excellent name again, invented and perfected the process of electroplating. But that's not true. People had been doing it for like 1,000 years before. Luigi may have perfected it, but invented he did not. I digress. While there are still ancestors of the Moche people in Peru today, their history was essentially lost due to, you guessed it, colonialism and looting. The first rediscovery of the Moche people's incredible metalwork happened in the year 1899 and on into 1900, right at that, New Year's mark, when Friedrich Max Ewell, a German archaeologist, uncovered the first Moche metal piece buried at a place called Haka de Sol. The burial grounds are called Hakas. And this is really stinking cool. He found this new piece of metal, but don't give Frederic his kudos yet, because this mustachioed nincompoop was like, this is not interesting, and he just didn't look into the metal. He was like, there's cooler stuff to look at. Who cares about this metal? And it's very unfortunate that he did that, because the research into Moche people teetered out and almost died. And it would have if it were not for a very interesting group of people, a very unexpected group of people. Grave robbers. These Moche burial grounds had been an all-you-can-loot buffet to looters for centuries. But in the late 1980s, there was a huge influx of Moche artifacts in the black market, which made archaeologists kind of have like an oh shit moment, because they realized that if the looting continued, all of the good stuff was gonna be gone. So research into the Moche people began once again in the 1980s. They found success pretty quickly, and in 1987, a massive tomb was found with gold, weapons, jewelry, pottery, and all sorts of stuff that would make anyone say King Tut who. This discovery of the tomb of the Lord of Sipan, as he is now called, completely changed what we knew about Moche culture. There were artifacts that linked missing pieces of the history, of the culture, of the ceremony, of how advanced the Moche people were. But even though this was a treasure trove of information, there was still so much more to uncover. The default is always male. Male rulers, male shaman, male warriors, male whatever. When information about a lost civilization is sparsely parsley, 9 out of 10 times the default was, and sometimes still is, to label the culture patriarchy. And it's not always done with malice. Sometimes the only tombs found are those of men. Sometimes remains don't get tested until years and years later, and in the case of the tombs in Peru, looters have taken so much stuff, it's hard to find much of anything that has been untouched. So for years, the scholars who studied the Moche people really only had the massive tomb of Sipan to go off of. But in 2006, another huge discovery was made. A team of Peruvian archaeologists led by Raul Franco Jordan of the National Cultural Institute of Peru were digging away at a site now called El Brujo and came across the most serendipitous discovery. Picture this. You're an archaeologist working away in the hot Peruvian sun. It's been a while since anybody has found anything, but still you are meticulously working away at clearing your area. You're dusting back debris, removing dirt, and you come across this rusty red patterned fabric. You work to clear more of the area away, and you realize it's a giant human-size bundle. You worked for several weeks to be able to safely remove this bundle. And when you finally take it out of the ground, you realize that this rusty red color is just the outer protective layer. You take off that protective layer and you peel back the strips of gauze at what you assume is the face. And when you peel that fabric back, a golden face is staring back at you. The first to see this face in who knows how long. You realize as you peel back more and more layers that this is one hell of a Russian nesting doll. Because with each unwinding of the fabric, you find new artifacts. And although this scenario is incredibly exciting, this process takes a really long time. It would take archaeologists months to go through the 26 layers of fabric, gold, and copper, and linen, and all of the treasures hidden within each layer. No one knows what's at the center, but everyone assumes that it's probably a person, and most likely a man, since, the Lord of Sipan was found a couple decades back. Finally, after several months and a whole team of people working on this bundle, they come to the center and find what seemed like a young woman from their initial observations. And they were flabbergasted. First of all, because she was a woman, and second of all, because of this tomb was full of more gold and jewelry than all of the members of Run DMC combined. And if you get that joke, it's time for retinol cream and a fish oil for your joints, my friend. Up until this moment, the most extravagant tomb of the Moche people was that Lord of Sipan. And a lot of what was deduced about the Moche people came from that tomb. And now this woman pops up in the historical record and completely changes everything. So let's talk about what was in her tomb that caused such a kerfuffle. First of all, so much gold. There was just so much gold found in her tomb. So it meant that this lady was either incredibly wealthy, incredibly important, or both. The items that were made of gold also made archaeologists scratch their little noggins a time or two. In the first few layers of wrappings, there were gold diadems and crowns, as well as 2 massive gold-plated war clubs, which were initially thought to be only for male leaders and connected to war. As they went further, there were hundreds of glass beads. There was like a blanket of golden plates, like linked together, like gold chainmail is kind of what it looks like. If the chainmail was like the size of credit cards, like flat credit cards that are gold and linked together. Banana sandwich, wild and crazy. After that, more gold necklaces were found, and gold and silver nose rings were also found. And that last find is particularly interesting because until this moment, nose rings were believed to have only been worn by men, specifically men in powerful positions. But here was this woman who was buried with literally half a dozen cool as shit nose rings. Some of these nose rings look like they were made by modern jewelers. I love this one. There's one that's a motif of 2 shrimps with golden gem eyes and a little crab in the center of them. So it's like the shrimp are facing backwards, so they're like C-curved out, and then within the space of their C curve is like a little crab, and it's so cute. And then there's another shrimp one as well that's just 2 shrimp. And then there's one that looks like a cat dragon, 2 cat dragons like intertwined together. They are super cool. There will be pictures up and around so that you can see them. They're incredible. They are amazing. Super incredible pieces of art. But she wasn't just a super fashionista. This mystery woman was also buried with a lot of weapons, including some giant gold-plated war clubs that we talked about a little bit earlier, and lots of other weapons like bows and arrows. So all of these different very masculine artifacts, or what archaeologists thought were masculine artifacts, are showing up in this woman's tomb. Why? What is their real purpose? Were these artifacts really masculine, or are they just symbols of power? And we put our modern sensibility onto the meaning of these artifacts. And the questions continue because since the discovery of the woman who is now called the Lady of Kao, other grave sites have been found with women of obviously high standing and positions of power. But with all this evidence that we have since collected, there's still no answer as to who or what this woman was. The discovery of the Lady Kao was serendipitous on many levels. Serendipity is my absolute favorite word. I have it tattooed on my foot. So the serendipitous occasions are, first of all, she was found at all. With all of the looting that had gone on for centuries, it was amazing that she was still there. The second serendipitous thing was the fact that her tomb hadn't been looted and her wrappings stayed as is for almost 2,500 years, which made it possible for her to become naturally mummified. Another maybe happy accident is the fact that the minerals used to paint on her wrappings had a preserving effect. So maybe this was an accident, maybe it wasn't an accident, and the Moche people purposely knew what they were doing. We just don't know. But because of this trifecta of serendipitous occasions, we were able to make some incredible discoveries about the Lady of Kao. And because she was so well preserved, her skin was still there. And archaeologists were able to find the dozens and dozens of tattoos this woman received in her lifetime, which is cool for us, not so cool for the researchers, because this sparked a lot of argument about her position in society and what it really was, because there's still some stigma about tattoos in academia. But before we get into what archaeologists think she was, let's talk about what they have found out about who she was. In 2017, extensive research was done on the Lady Kao to find out how she lived and how she died. Using CT scans and modern autopsy techniques, as well as other non-invasive methods, researchers were able to find out so much more about our honorary Empress Baddie. First of all, she lived a good life, which is excellent. She ate well, she was healthy, and I'd like to think that she was happy. She showed no signs of hard labor and most likely lived affluently her whole life. She had dozens of intricate designs of spiders, little squidgy worm-looking things as tattoos, and long dragon lizards and geometric designs winding around her arms and her hands and her feet. Her tattoos are absolutely gorgeous. However, her life was cut short at about the age of 25. She unfortunately passed away either during, but most likely after childbirth due to seizures, probably brought on by eclampsia, which is when you have extremely high blood pressure brought on by pregnancy that causes seizures and in some cases coma. According to Jordi Esteban Fare, Spanish forensic doctor, she most likely died 48 hours after the onset of labor, due to how open her pelvis was at her time of death. There was no infant in the burial with her or found anywhere near the site thus far, so we can't say with certainty that the baby at least survived, but I am forever an optimist, so I would like to believe that the Lady of Kao's ancestor is like walking around there somewhere and her little baby was okay and everything was good and the other people took care of her. But that is just me, because I am an optimist. She was clearly loved and cared for in her life and her afterlife, because her burial mound has such thought and care put into it. But that thought and care for her afterlife is what's causing all of the controversy. Because of her tattoos, many scholars believe that she was not a leader at all, but a shaman. a priestess, if you will. The motifs of her tattoos are very spiritual and match the religious paintings in the burial complex where she was found, upholding the belief that the Moche were a patriarchal society and that the women that have been found thus far, including Lady Kao, were important but not leaders. And then you have the other side, who hypothesized that yeah, she was totally a leader. And then even some people go as far as to say that the Moche were a matriarchal society. How about them apples? Okay, if we can just assume the society was patriarchal, we can just as well assume it was matriarchal, okay? But that's just not me saying things, okay? One of the biggest proponents of the latter theory is Virgilio Franco Jordan, the man who found the man who found Lady Kao. He and other archaeologists, along with several other scholars, are like, yeah, we think that the Moche is a patriarchal, were goodness gracious, TK, get it together, were a matriarchal society and funded by an organization called the Wise Foundation, a nonprofit educational foundation in Peru. They are working on a research document that will apparently reinforce the idea that the Moche were a matriarchy and not a patriarchy. As of the recording of this episode, that document has yet to be published. All of this is very new. And in the archaeology world, in the science world, in the academia world, things take a long ass time to get done, okay? There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of things that you have to check and double check. So we don't know the outcome of this document yet. But as soon as this document drops, dear one, trust and believe, I will tell you all about it. But until then, all we can do is speculate and dream about what kind of woman the Lady Kao was. Was she kind? Was she fair? Was she fearless? We may never know what she accomplished in her life, but her death has changed what we know about Moche culture and Peruvian history forever. And although we don't have 100% confirmation to really call her an Empress Baddie, because we don't really know what she did in her time of rule or if she did rule in the first place, but I think we can extend this Empress Baddie moniker onto the Lady Kao because of her contribution post-mortem to the archaeological record. Her tomb is full of so many incredible pieces of artwork and history, and now we have a much better idea of what the Moche people were like. Yes, we do have a ton of more questions, but I think that's also an incredible contribution. When you find something or when you learn something that makes you question what is considered to be the status quo, I think that gets you Empress Baddie status. Because to make people question everything they think they know about something is very powerful. I think that's what a good Empress Baddie does. An Empress Baddie changes history, whether that was in her life or because of her life. And I hope you agree. Well, dear one, we have come to our final thought, and I would love to be able to tell you more about the Lady Kao, about what her tattoos meant, about what her life was like, about what she did in her life. But the Moche people are one of those lost societies. They were overcome by something, and we're not quite sure what that thing was. They were around for almost 700 years, and then they just whoop, disappeared, which is fascinating and also infreaking. And another boundary that we have is a language barrier, because a lot of this research is being done in Spanish and local dialects, so we just don't have access to the information in English, and it takes a long time for these sort of things to become available to the public, because this is, I mean, if you think about it, the bulk of the research about the Moche people started in the 1980s. Just 25 years ago. Just kidding. 40 years in the archaeology world is like but a drop in the bucket. That's like baby status. So I would love to be able to tell you more, but I just don't have anything more for you, Captain. I'm sorry about my horrible Scottish accent. But what I do have for you is a final thought, okay? And it's a quite wholesome one. So later on in this season, we'll be talking about an Egyptologist, we'll be talking to an Egyptologist who works towards making museums and the displaying of human remains more dignified for the deceased. And I think one of the greatest things we can do for people like Lady Call, who have contributed so much to our understanding of history and our place in it, is to give them back their face. Even if that person was just a regular human being, to be honest with you, if we find them and have the ability to give them their identity back, I think there's something so humanizing about it. I don't know if that's the word I should be using, but I grapple a lot with the idea of displaying human remains. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about recently, especially after my conversation with the archaeologist who we'll be talking to later in the episode or later in this season. And it got me thinking about the reconstruction of different remains that we found, different people. They're people, the different people that we have found. And in my opinion, I think one of the greatest things that we can do to kind of repay the people whose remains we've found and whose remains we use to try to piece together the historical narrative, piece together what our human history is all about. I think the very least that we can do for them is to give them their face back, because now we have this technology to do it so easily. In the past, we were able to do it, but it was hard. It took, a lot of work to be able to reconstruct faces. And I'm not saying that it's super duper easy now, but it is easier than it has been in the past. So if we have the ability to give them their faces back, I think that we should. And I'm getting a little heated about this, but I think it's really, really cool to be able to do that. And that's exactly what they did for the Lady of Kau. They 3D printed her face after taking countless scans of it and measurements, and they gave her her face back. They made a replica of the best approximation of her height, her size, and her face. And they put on replicas of the dress, of the golden plate, like credit card thing that I was talking about earlier. They put that back on her. They put her crown back on her. They gave her her 2 giant war clubs. They put her nose rings in. She's back, as a statue, but she's back. She came back to life, and I think that is incredible. I realize now that I didn't tell you when this happened. So all of this happened in the year 2017. After months of working on the Lady Call's face, it was presented to the world at the Call Museum of the El Brujo Archaeological Complex. She has a wide forehead, bright eyes, a stern face, beautiful high cheekbones, a strong nose, and she's now called the face of Peru. And that face looks like she could have ruled a whole damn kingdom. Well, dear one, we kind of got off on a side tangent in our final thought, but that's okay. I think it's okay. Are you okay with it? I hope you are. If you aren't okay with it, you're probably not listening to this part anyway. So thank you for joining me for this a little bit on the shorter side episode. I think it's so important that we cover topics from all over the world. I'm really trying to cover every square, every country that I possibly can, because I think it's really important to diversify our historical education. So if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed diversifying your historical knowledge, why don't you go ahead and leave a little rating or review. Maybe share this or any episode with your friend. Maybe join us over on Patreon for some bonus content to help support the podcast. Maybe go and get some merch. That's super helpful too. Honestly, just by you listening to this episode is also incredibly, incredibly helpful. Spreading the word to your friends is also really helpful. Word of mouth is one of the best ways that podcasts get around because you trust your friend's recommendation, right? So recommend this podcast. That would be super cool. So we're very close. Ooh, I forgot to mention, we're super duper close to our goal of making 200 ratings and reviews, 200 reviews on across all of the platforms. So that's really cool. If you would like to help with that would be awesome. Now I'm getting rambly. I'm gonna go have some more coffee because I'm a little bit tired. But before I do that, I will wish you a happy morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is. Go do something kind for yourself. Take a little sippy of whatever it is you're sipping and on. I'm gonna do it. Delicious. Go outside, touch some grass, do something that makes you happy. I will see you next week for our very first guest. I'm so excited because we have Katie from Who Did What Now podcast. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have her on. We're gonna be talking about King Tut's curse. Is it real? Is it not real? You'll find out next week. Okay, I'll see you later. Love you. Bye. I like the way you work it. Oh, diggity, about to bag it up. Dolly Parton knows how to party. Dolly Parton knows how to party. In the city of Dollywood, she keeps it rockin'. Oh, don't fall. She keeps it rockin'. Yeah! Jesus is a biscuit. If you are a fan of drag queens, RuPaul's Drag Race, you'll know that reference. Jesus is a biscuit. Steph, this is good. Hair is good. It's not reading too green. Not too green. Oh my gosh. Okane kasegu. Watashi wa star. Gosh, I got Megan Thee Stallion on the brain today. I got Megan Thee Stallion on the brain. I'm tired, Grandpa. I am. I'm a little bit tired. That's why we have an energy drink. Mango Monster. Oh no. We've reached the bottom. That's why we're a drink goblin. We got lots of drinks. Drinks on deck. Okay. But this one is almost out. Oh, did you think I came ill prepared? Boom. Another drink. Another one. DJ Khaled. DJ Hydration. If I was a DJ, that would be my DJ name. DJ Hydration. Cure. Okay, Steph, I love you, but I need to do this. But I will reply to you. We're talking about idols. Idols in Japan. And it all was spurred by a Megan Thee Stallion conversation. Oh my god, all roads lead back to Megan Thee Stallion. All roads lead back to Megan Thee Stallion. All roads lead back to Megan Thee Stallion. Okay, we're ready for episode 2. We got our Dolly Parton shirt on today because she's an honorary Empress Baddie. She is the Empress of Dollywood. Dollywood? I think it's Dollywood. Right? Yes. You know what I'm talking about. We're the readiest spaghettis. We got big earrings on. We got big lips on. We got Dolly Parton on our shirt. Everything is gonna be good and great.